Didn't think it came from dead men in sandals, but Stoic philosophy has to be the best philosophy out there. And it's something that I've studied for years. It's a daily ritual, it's the way that I live my life, it's something that I'm constantly studying because I think it's a beautiful philosophy. And some of the greatest leaders in present day and in history followed this philosophy. Now, on YouTube, and just online in general, there is a load of shit when it comes to Stoic philosophy. There's a load of AI generated videos that tell you this is what it is, and they misquote things about the philosophy. They also talk about like suppressing your emotions and, you know, appearing as a tough man and all this sort of stuff, where it's absolute fucking nonsense. So a lot of people start to get into Stoic philosophy, and they may read a book that someone has written about Stoic philosophy. Now, if you were to go online and just go to Amazon Books and search Stoic philosophy, you'll get a plethora of books. A lot of them are AI generated. So the authors have just been a bit lazy. They've used ChatGPT, created a book, self-published, and shoved it on Amazon. Those books are not great. I've seen them, I've read some of them, and it's not quite Stoic philosophy. So what is Stoic philosophy? Look, it goes back years, centuries, all the way back. It was created by a man called Zeno. And there's two sides of Stoic philosophy. You've got the Greek side, which is like Zeno and Seneca. And then you've got the Roman side. And the Roman side came a few years later. Well, hundreds of years later, like 200-300 years later, in came the Roman side of it. And that's from like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, who you may have heard of. And there's many Stoics that would teach this way of living. And a lot of it is to do with facing adversity. A lot of it is to do with happiness, finding peace, facing adversity head on, controlling things that are inside of your control. And when you follow the philosophy and embody it and practice the virtues every single day, it will transform your life. It will change your perception. It will change the way that you view things. You will be able to process things faster. You'll be able to respond to things, people in your environment, through the virtues, which is what I'm going to briefly talk about in this video. This is just a little video about how it can work and how it can transform your life. But because Stoic philosophy is such a massive subject, it's huge. I might even turn the whole channel into Stoic philosophy. Don't know yet. But I've personally been studying it for years. I study it from reading the actual journals that we have from the Stoics. And then I use the Daily Stoic, which you may have heard of, from Ryan Holiday, to do daily journals myself. And there's courses as well that I've followed. And a lot of it is just reading. That's how you learn about it. Because that was a huge part of Stoic philosophy. That's a huge part of what the Stoics do. Reading, journaling. And a huge part of being a Stoic is rejecting what society does. It's not falling into the pattern of what majority of society do. Majority of society are scrolling on their phones, they're absorbing stuff, it's all instant gratification, etc. Stoic philosophy is not about that. So, where you can get started is books like How to Be Stoic by Massimo Pizzigolucci is a great book. Personally, another great book is The Lives of the Stoic. This is a great book by Ryan Holiday because it goes into each individual person from Greek and from Roman, and it will tell you about each Stoic and their behaviors, their actions, and why they are a Stoic and their success as well. Fantastic book. Another one is Epictetus. So this is Discourses by Epictetus. So he was a philosopher, Epictetus. Back in the day, he was a slave. And his writings are absolutely incredible. An important thing to know about Stoic philosophy is the self-help books that you read today that are out there, most of them, if not all, are based on Stoic philosophy. It's based on Greek mythology. So whenever these new self-help books come out, straight away you read it and it's like everything links back to Stoic philosophy. So for me, I'm like, go straight to the source. Like, study the source. Now, the source can be quite challenging to read. Like, this is a difficult read. You'll need a thesaurus. I think I might just butchered that. A thesaurus. You'll need one of those with you to look up each word. Now, there's some great translations as well, because obviously this has been, it's been translated. So it just depends on the translation of the author who's translated it as well. Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. This is a fantastic book. My family bought me this book about 5 years ago, and it's, as I go through it, as you can see, there's folded over pages, there's bits underlined as I keep coming back to it. This is basically Marcus Aurelius's journal. So if you don't know who Marcus Aurelius is, Google that one. He was the most powerful man that ever lived, and one of the Roman emperors who was actually nice, because there was a lot of evil guys, evil emperors back in Roman times, but he was one of the good guys. And what's interesting is in Meditations, which is his journal, by the way, and he started writing it like, in his 40s and 50s. We've got a wise man here who is the most powerful man in the world, and we've got access to his brain, his thoughts, and I find it fascinating. So the guys that I coach on this, and the guys that come to our retreat, I talk about this. Like, this is the only book really you need in life. If you action everything in this book, my God, your life will shift significantly. If you take it as gospel, whatever, you take the learnings from it and apply it to your life and your world, this can transform your life, because it's all about taking the action. And what's interesting is Marcus references Epictetus in his writings. So Epictetus was before Marcus, but in Marcus he references Epictetus. It's amazing. So they're all connected. It's fantastic when you read it. And that's where I would start. I would start with a book like How to be Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. The book's in my other room, so I don't actually have it with me right now. I'd start with that one, and then maybe The Lives of the Stoics, which will really go into the history of each person, each Stoic, and tell you about them. That's a fantastic book. And for daily maintenance, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. I mean, this book is nearly falling apart. I'm on year 6 years now reading this. It just keeps rotating every year. So I just go back to the start. So if I look at my bookmark here, at the point of recording this, 15th of July, there we go. And it's a great book because you get a quote taken from the books, like Epictetus' writings or Marcus's writings or Zeno or Seneca's writings. And then you get a little short passage from Ryan. And it really provokes thought in the morning. So I use this as like a daily top-up. This is also another good way to get into Stoic philosophy. It could start to introduce you to it, because in transparency, I actually started with this, and this got me into it, and I became more curious, and I'd see the writings because Ryan would reference Marcus Aurelius, for example, and I'd think, that is an absolute golden quote. Why not just go get Marcus Aurelius's journal, Why not just go buy that book? It costs £1. £1. And if you action everything in that book and go with the thoughts that he did, my goodness, it will completely transform your life. And you'll be able to face adversity head on, live with peace, live with strength, live with honesty, bravery, have the courage to do things. This book is very, very good. So that's just sort of a little bit how you'd get started. But it's a beautiful philosophy, and it goes back centuries, as I mentioned. And the number one thing, like the principle in Stoic philosophy, is understanding the dichotomy of control. To be honest, I think obviously I'm in the coaching world, and the word dichotomy of control gets thrown around quite a lot now on social media. But it's understanding everything that's inside of your control and not necessarily attaching yourself for too long onto the things outside of your control. You can still care for the things outside of your control, but it's not attaching yourself onto it emotionally for too long. That's what it's about. Because there's lots of misconceptions about Stoic philosophy as well. There's this uppercase Stoic philosophy and this lowercase Stoic philosophy. And the uppercase is this whole like stiff upper lip, and when men were when, and men were men, when men were men, and not processing your emotions or suppressing your emotions and just get on with it. There's that. But that's not actually what Stoic philosophy is. Stoic philosophy is actually processing your emotions for what it is. And this links very much to NLP, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which actually, when CBT was created years ago, that was born out of Stoic philosophy. So a lot of psychology models that you use today, or the readings and psychology models, a lot of them are based on Stoic philosophy. So again, for me, I'm like, well, just go straight to the source, read the source, get really into it. So that's the main principle, the dichotomy of control. Next, you have what's known as the virtues. Now, the virtues, I actually have them here on my bracelet here, just as a reminder. So I've got on my bracelet, you won't be able to see it here, but I've got C, W, T, and J, and that's courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. I'm not going to go into what they are, because again, that's a whole separate video on the virtues. We also have the doctrines. We also have things like memento mori, remember you must die, amor fati, which is love of fate. And some of these link to religions as well, and Christian faith, etc. A lot of this is overlaps, but it's important to remember that Stoic philosophy, it's a philosophy. It's not religion. And if you follow it and you take the principles from it and you apply them every single day, it will transform the way that you think. It will transform the way that you process thoughts. It will transform the way that you communicate with people. You'll reflect often. And that's another thing as well with relating to Stoic philosophy, is reflection is a huge part, because that's what the guys were doing. Meditations is journal. Meditations is Marcus's journal. So he's reflecting every day. So a huge part of being a Stoic and someone who studies Stoic philosophy is journaling becomes a daily practice. I'm not talking pages and pages and pages and pages. When you read the entries in meditation, some of them are just short because he was a busy man. And I picture Marcus, when I think of Marcus Aurelius, I picture him, in the mornings, maybe in his tent because he's attending a war or something like that, and he's sat in his tent and he's journaling on the events. He's asking the logos. So the logos are the gods. He's asking them for strength to help him. And it's incredible. So, but the journaling goes hand in hand with you. It's almost like you can't be a Stoic unless you're not journaling. It's just, they just go hand in hand. And my journal is very much written up. A lot of it is quite repeated. I'm just reminding myself, reflecting on things that have happened in the day. How can I be a better father? How can I be a better husband? How can I respond more effectively? How can I step into becoming the best version of myself? And I use the quotes from Stoicism and journal on them, and take my interpretation of the quote and how I can apply that to my life. So this is just a short video on Stoic philosophy and how it's transformed my life, and how I've responded to things, how I have the courage to do difficult things on purpose, how I moderate things through the virtue of temperance, not too much of one thing. This has really helped with all sorts of things, transforming my relationship with food, for example, not scrolling for too long. Of course I scroll on my phone, but when you read the philosophy all the time, you have this reminder in your mind. A lot of it is to do with justice as well, the other virtue, the virtue of justice. This is treating people fairly. This is all about having the justice and seeing people as equals, because that's a huge thing of Stoic philosophy. They saw everyone as equals, because it's also important to note that a lot of the Stoics were actually quite wealthy men, with the exception of one who lost everything on a shipwreck, lost all his fortune, but he made it all back again years later. They were quite wealthy men. And Epictetus was a slave. He was a slave. Later, got some fortune when he was released. But it's important to know that they are wealthy men, but they didn't always necessarily appear wealthy. And they saw everyone as equals. They knew that I'm not better than anyone else. And there's people that I can learn. I can learn something from every single person out there. So this comes into removing that judgment about other people, which is very, very powerful. So there's just a few things there. I had no plan for this video. I just thought I'd go on a bit of a tangent about Stoic philosophy. If I were you and you were interested in getting started, I would probably buy How to Be Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci, and then or The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, and start reading it day by day, start digesting it, start getting curious about it, start journaling on it. And once you start pairing that with things like a daily meditation, it will absolutely transform your life. But you've probably heard of you become what you consume, which is so true. If you consume all of this, you will become it. And you'll live with a lot more inner peace, a lot more calmly. You'll respond to things more effectively. You'll get after your goals. You'll stop moaning. You'll stop complaining. You'll treat people more fairly. And you'll keep inviting that gratitude in. You'll take the right action. You'll do your duty. That's a huge part, doing your duty. And it will completely transform your life. So, get stuck in, buy one of the books, and go from there. Take care.